Next up is Tom Whisenand, the co-founder of Indeed Brewing. Big round of applause. Hello again. Hey. Good to see you. You can use either mic, and your timer's right over there.
I think we're going to queue up a video real quick. I'm not sure if it's going to eat in my time or not. It is, so I'm going to start. If they want to play the video, that's fine. So I'm Tom Whisenand. We opened Indeed Brewing Company in Minneapolis in 2012. We'll sell about 15,500 barrels of beer this year, with 97% of that beer sold in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota, and about 10,000 barrels of that self-distributed in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Those numbers reflect our direct, consistent strategy of pursuing a narrow and deep growth as we grow. In addition to this underlying strategy, some of our defining strengths are our well-defined and memorable brand aesthetic, our reputation for high-quality, consistent, and innovative beers, and our commitment to and personal connections with our customers, consumers, and communities, most notably through our charitable giving program, Indeed We Can, which takes all the profits on Wednesday nights in our tap room and gives them to employee-selected charities. My pitch is this. Look at a map of Minnesota, and you'll see that we are surrounded by basically low-population, low-growth states, with one exception, Wisconsin, a state that loves beer and has a strong cultural connection to Minnesota. Expanding our distribution to Wisconsin would double the size of our market, but how do we kind of ensure success in a state that is fiercely loyal to local brands and home to a challenging retail environment? Our strategy, while sort of bold and original to our region, is fairly simple. Become local by opening a pilot brewery and tap room in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that will directly connect us with the consumer, drive innovation, double our tap room revenue, double our charitable giving, and ultimately, we believe, make us the largest Minnesota craft brand in Wisconsin. In preparation for this expansion, we have already laid important groundwork, including the self-distribution of more than 3,000 cases of beer in Wisconsin over the last year, mainly in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, focusing on getting our beer into the right places, not all of the places. This approach has worked well, but never meant to be a permanent solution. So last week, we finalized a distribution agreement with a Wisconsin wholesaler, and we'll continue the slow and diligent rollout of our brand across the state of Wisconsin, kind of with the keystone being when we open this brewery next summer. Innovation and nimbleness can be difficult to achieve as a busy production brewery like we are in Minneapolis. So the Milwaukee brewery will be capable of producing our full line of existing beers, but more importantly, it'll be an engine for innovation, a pilot facility so we can take big ideas and start them small. Beers brewed in our Milwaukee brewery will be served in the tap room, but also sprinkled in various markets, gauging consumer interest along the way. When something strikes a chord, we can take that new brand and ramp it up in our Minneapolis production brewery with a full range of packaging options. And so, now I got to say though, this is not some Panera Bread expansion. I think that's something that might be on some people's minds. Through all of this, our brewery's story and brand will evolve to become as much a Wisconsin one as a Minnesota one. Milwaukee will join Minneapolis on nearly all of our branding. We'll employ more than 20 people in Wisconsin by 2020. Our charitable giving program will raise more than $100,000 a year for Wisconsin nonprofits, and we'll embrace and champion the cultural connections and friendly rivalry between our states. Thank you very much.
You can hold on to that. There's no questions for you. I'll take the. Hold on. You got that? Yep. Thank you very much. All right. As promised, Tom, what do you think of liquid?
I've got nothing bad to say about the beer. The beer's good. There's a really nice citrusy character. I get a little bit of sweet tart on there, almost an ascorbic finish. I'm assuming it's heavily late hop adds. I like that it's a lower ABV for an IPA at 6.2. That's definitely something that I'm looking for. The only thing I'll push back on a little bit is that same comment I made yesterday about going into Wisconsin. You've got a huge giant in the room with New Glarus, and I wish you a lot of luck competing against them. But that's someone I would really look to push off and pull off of.
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody goes into Wisconsin thinking they're going to take on New Glarus. Yep. We'd be crazy to think that. But I think if you do look at the beer in Wisconsin, the beer that's sold, the majority of it, New Glarus doesn't make an IPA. In fact, most of their beers are kind of Germanic in roots, lager-based. And if you look at a lot of the other top brewers in Wisconsin, it's the same. Capital Brewing, Lakefront. So I think there's a lot of that beer happening in Wisconsin, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for a brewery like us that's going to really kind of drive innovation and try to bring new flavors to the market.
Carmen, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, the notion of being the biggest Minnesota craft brand in Wisconsin. What do you think of the business plan?
I actually really liked the model of entering a new market with a tap room. I think the conversations today that Nielsen presented sort of reinforced people wanting that experience. So I think it's smart. And You know, when Andy was speaking yesterday, he showed a slide that was like the different generations of craft. And you guys really feel like a craft 2.0 sort of brewery. So I think that the idea of remaining very local and providing an experience is something that is sort of foundational to the craft 2.0 generations. I also think that it's really smart that you guys are focusing on innovation, because as that craft 2.0 sort of brewery, I think that innovation is the thing that it will help you stay relevant, in addition to some of the local efforts that you guys are working on.
Yeah, thanks. And I think that it's important to note with this project that it's not the beginning of more states that we're going to add. This is really the only state that we've ever added. We do sell beer in North Dakota, but it's a very small market, and this is kind of something we've coveted. Wisconsin's something we've just held out there for years and thinking, when are we going to go? It's a challenge, and we've watched other brewers honestly go into the state from out of the state and not do very well, because it is such a challenging market for so many different reasons. So we spent a lot of time thinking about this plan, and it's kind of like coming in through the back door a little bit, but I do think there's a risk for us to be seen as like carpetbaggers, and so we really do have to be patient and really kind of put our people out front, and with the charitable giving and all these things that we're really have real honest intention with, and hopefully that'll make us successful.
Ryan, as an investor, what do you think of Tom's presentation? Is there anything more you wanted to see?
Yeah, I mean, I like the flavor, I like the branding. The only thing I was sort of questioning is all of the packaging was really good, but I was struggling to see a real cohesive sort of brand look, which you don't want to get so cohesive you look corporate, but how do you approach that?
You should have seen us when we started. Over the 6 years, we've slowly been kind of trying to make things a little more aligned without losing sort of the spirit of our brand. One thing I didn't mention is our brewery in Minneapolis is an area known as the Arts District. So since we started, we've always kind of been having art as a part of our brand, and we've made it a forefront of it. Recently, as we sort of built up our team in Minneapolis, in part to help support this expansion, we added a full-time graphic designer. He's actually one of the most highest paid employees at our brewery, and he's a really skilled guy, and kind of part of that is to, yeah, right, you like that, right? It's a good gig, this design thing. And the whole goal is to basically, in time, really try to make things cohesive, but still maintain the spirit of our brand.
Did they succeed, Fred?
Yeah, I think this is, of the contestants, you have one of the more polished and well put together brands. I think the biggest thing for you, because you seem so primed for scale and expansion, is the best brands in the world understand the power of recognition. And right now, the craft beer industry has this love affair with creativity and the arts, and there are so many breweries doing this kind of same thing, that when we're thinking about building brands, if I had to explain it to someone that's never seen it before and send them to pick it up, it's the one with blank. And today, I'm not sure what that fill in the blank is. Reading a name is a lot different than recognizing a brand, and right now every SKU is vastly different. So I think in the long term, you have to figure out what's the tie that brings it all together in super competitive markets where you don't get to have a tap room. You're just in a liquor store with.
We don't have much time left. Dave, you got 15 seconds if you want it. Last word on Indeed.
My last word is I still can't believe Wisconsin's the state that's growing in the Midwest. Right? Is that correct? Mike, I was right along the same lines. I was trying to figure out, I like the branding, but I was trying to figure out the consistency, and I think that's something that can be worked on. Even just looking, I see 16s and I see 12s. Where are you going to play, and try and make sure you stay consistent so your consumer knows when a new brand comes out that exactly comes from Indeed.
Great, thanks.
Fantastic. All right.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Well done, Tom. Thank you.